With The Reckoning being out for a little over a week and seemingly splitting the zombies community right down the middle, we caught up with Afterlife to get his opinions on the map and the storyline moving forward into Black Ops 7 Zombies. Stay locked for episode 11 of Perkaholics Anonymous Podcast.
Clutch Squad, welcome back to the Perkaholics Anonymous Podcast for episode 11. It's Jeff here with MZC, and today we have a very special guest. You know him as Afterlife from the YouTube channel Afterlife Analysis, where he dives deep into Call of Duty Zombies with breakdowns, theory videos, and some of the sharpest analysis in the community. And also from his own Zombies podcast, the Afterlife Pod. He's been covering everything from gameplay mechanics to storyline mysteries, and we're excited to have him on today to talk all things Reckoning and what the future of this mode might look like. Afterlife, thanks for joining us, buddy.
Thanks for having me. That was a really good intro. That was really good.
Thank you.
Very thorough, well researched. I don't know about the sharpest analysis. They're okay, but that's pretty nice. I appreciate that though. That was really sweet. Thank you.
Absolutely. MZC, what's up? Haven't been in the saddle in a while, so bear with us for a little rusty off the rip.
I'm gonna say it's been a couple of weeks of just straight gameplay, so trying to get back to podcast form is a little foreign still. We've only been doing this for a couple months. You've been doing this for a long time, so you've got your sea legs, Afterlife. But I'm doing good, man. Just enjoying DLC 4, I guess. We'll see if everyone feels that way, but I don't know. I've been on a vibe.
Are we after, or are we reckoning? Like, are we hungover from the reckoning? Are we drunk off of it yet, so to say? Are we still excited to load into this map that, like, how we were on the first day? Like, I want to hear initial impressions from Afterlife himself regarding the reckoning, the atmosphere, the vibe, and just what was your overall impressions when you first booted into the new map?
First game, not
literal.
Yeah, I was first game, I think I was excited, like most kind of new maps. I will say the hype for Reckoning, I wasn't really feeling it, to be quite honest. When I saw the trailer at first, I was like, okay, this looks pretty interesting. You got my attention. Then the blog post happened. The blog posts always take the wind out of my sails. I'll be completely transparent about that. But going through it and playing with like Lego and donuts and doing the hunt and everything, and J Money was really fun. Like, I had a good time doing it. I thought the puzzles were good. Going through that first like initial wave with the Easter egg hunt in the community kind of skews my perception of it. And then as I continued to play it, I felt I'm very conflicted on this map. I mostly feel like if I could get, like, if we had a stack of points, it'd be more, I'm falling neutral. Parts of it I really, really like. I think the gameplay is like on point. I think they did a pretty good job trying to merge a lot of the Easter egg stuff with the gameplay, even though the story just is so confusing and silly. But atmosphere, that holds a lot of weight for me, and I'm not really vibing with it. So like that first run, I was having a good time. It was fun, but as it's kind of settled in, I'm falling into a more neutral paradigm, I guess I would say, to put it concisely.
And MZC, that's kind of interesting. Before we kind of get your official, unbridled,
oh my god,
out there thoughts on the map. I know you've had plenty of content, of course, live streams, galore since it's dropped, but this is kind of the first formal sit-down setting where you could organize your thoughts and really explain to the audience, like, hey, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, this is what I would improve upon, this is what I would take away. It's kind of interesting hearing Afterlife describe that, because I feel like that's kind of the whole title for a lot of people. Like, there's a lot of in between and down the middle, and we'll talk about where the future of zombies goes from here. Black Ops 6 into Black Ops 7, that'll be later into the show, of course. But MZC, where are you at, in comparison to what Afterlife said, and just in general with Reckoning, currently?
I think I'm a little bit more on the high side than right in the middle, and that's only because I just know that our difference, I think, might be that Afterlife, you definitely care a lot more about the story, at least I, in my opinion, than me. Like, I follow everything, I read the intels, like, I keep up with stuff, but I'm not like, if the story doesn't really make sense, or Blanchard and Panos don't really tie in all the way together, like, it's a little disappointing to me, but it's not gonna like completely bring down my vibe where I'm like, oh man, shit, like, that really sucks. It doesn't really do it for me. But yeah, I'd say that for me, the gameplay, even today, and I want to be careful because I did really, really like Shattered Veil, and then like a couple weeks into it, I started to kind of fall out of love with it when the goggles fell off. But the gameplay is like still doing it for me. I thought the Easter egg quest was probably one of, if not the best in the game. I don't know, like it just kind of felt, especially the hunt felt like an old school Easter egg where people were stumped. You know, there was like, hey, I found this, but we don't know what to do with it yet. Whereas it's not as like streamlined as some of the prior maps. I felt like the pacing, Afterlife and I had talked about this the first podcast we did together with Terminus. It felt like it was like a roller coaster where like 1 second, like the difficulty is really hard. And then all of a sudden it's like really dead for a couple of steps. And then it just picks up again with the bomb step. And then you go to the boss. So it's like up and down. Whereas this one kind of felt like very, even though it's not 100% linear walkthrough, it did feel like, okay, once you know what you're doing and you have the right parts and stuff, like you can kind of streamline things and make it linear, but it doesn't have to be that way. It's not like you get hung up on one thing or another. You can kind of go in your own separate direction and get different things done when you want to get those things done. So I really like that. But yeah, at least in my opinion, from a storyline perspective, as somebody that's been keeping up throughout the year, a lot of stuff just like wasn't answered, like in with the Panos and the Blanchard drama. Like they introduced that in Liberty Falls. They keep up with it through the intel system throughout the year, and then just like kind of discard it completely. Like none of it made sense to me in the end, if you really think about it. Like it is cool to see, you know, you upgrading the wonder weapon by sacrificing one or the other, but yeah, that kind of just got thrown by the wayside, which is definitely a frustrating payoff, especially if you've kind of become, you know, invested in either of those characters throughout the year, thinking like, hey, Panos is going to be potentially like the Warden from Blood of the Dead or from Mob of the Dead, where it's like, you know, he commits to this shadow voice that he's hearing with all these promises and ends up getting screwed at the end. It doesn't, you know, at the end of the day, it didn't matter. It doesn't matter, and it probably won't matter moving forward. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah.
Do we think that, and this is maybe a little bit off topic, but with everything that's going to come out and going to, like, do we think Black Ops 6 was a successful year of zombies? Just like really quick, like, was it a successful year, or was it kind of like more closer to a successful year or closer to a filler year? I know we want to talk map specific, but I have this on my mind right now.
After you got it.
Okay. That's a very hard question for me to answer, because I feel like my attention and understanding of Black Ops 6 Zombies is pulled in multiple different directions. Like I get on Twitter and I'll see like, oh, this game sucks, it's dead. And then I'll kind of like hear multiplayer YouTubers be like, the player numbers are lower than ever before. And that's a confusing metric to understand, because Steam numbers are like at like 50K right now, but that we don't know what console is. We don't know what Xbox Game Pass is. We don't know what Battle.net is. So it could be anywhere from like 50,000 to 200,000 players. Is that all in zombies? Probably not. But so it's hard to kind of gauge what the player count is. And then I've also seen like engagement and YouTube kind of drop inside of the zombies community as of late. So I don't think that this year was a failure. I don't think it was an extreme success. I think it was like on the other side of mid, you know, like a 6 or a 7, in terms of like if I could give it a rating. But mostly I think zombies fans are feeling kind of apathetic towards Black Ops 6. They're like, it was fine, it was okay. Treyarch's kind of burning us out with some of these systems and the story sucking. We obviously love zombies. We want it to do well. Like, I guess we'll see what Black Ops 7 has in store. So I think it was like a slightly above neutral. I know I keep saying like neutral and like whatever. That's not a great phrasing to use, but I think it's like I said, like about a 6 or a 7 in terms of success.
And I only really bring this up, and MZC will tell you this too. And like I said, I'm kind of jumping around a little bit here to start, but people who, you know, tune in to our episodes have kind of come to know that me and MZC talk about how this was like a trampoline or a springboard into Black Ops 7, and that's not like an original idea or thought. I think a lot of people through leaks or people on Twitter, or, you know, looking ahead at revealing for the next game, I think a lot of people have come to that conclusion that it's like, hey, either this game wasn't supposed to exist, or they got told about this game. They thought Black Ops 7 was the real game, and then they got told about this game kind of intermittently, and they had to think on their feet. So I'm curious, you know, when we have guests on, to always, you know, see how they feel about, hey, was this kind of just like, it's not really a gap year, because like, hey, it's still back-to-back years of Call of Duty Zombies round-based, modes and maps. And yeah, sure, Outbreak is rumored for next year, but it's just interesting because I know, me and MZC talk about kind of that concept all the time. Like, hey, did they hear about this? When did they hear that they were doing Black Ops 7? Did they hear about doing Black Ops 7 first? All that stuff and everything. But MZC, let's get back to the Reckoning really quick here, unless you got a quick comment there. But
I was just going to say,
I know we talk about it a lot.
Afterlife, did you see the tweet that I think it's Perka put out where he basically looked up when the website was registered for the most recent Black Ops 7, the Guild ARG, versus like when the Black Ops 6 stuff was registered, and like the BO7 one was, I think, like officially like licensed or registered, whatever, on the internet, maybe like a half a year or almost a year before BO6. So do you think that has any significance, or do you think they were just like getting their licensing together and they knew it was going to happen prior to all that stuff? I'm not saying that they developed this game in like a year or anything, but do you think that they maybe were like, hey, we're going to take what we have already developed that we were planning for BO7 or like our next title and kind of like just breaking it up? Because I know originally, to piggyback off of this point, the original leaks for this game or rumors were that like there was a big Outbreak style map for Liberty Falls. This is like back to Cold War, even just shortly after, where honestly, like looking at it nowadays, it does kind of seem like maybe they did chop up the mansion or Reckoning, Shattered Veil, and Liberty Falls into different experiences, because you can still see all those things outside the map. They're still there, they're still present. Obviously, if you were to go over there and like no clip, I'm sure like none of that stuff would be loaded in, or there'd be very, very few stuff over there. But do you think that maybe they said, hey, like we got to do back-to-back years now, like we're gonna have to chop up the original plans? Maybe they had this crew wrapping up after a couple of maps, or a map like Shadows of Evil, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I have seen all the leaks. I actually didn't know it's Perka who found that, though. That's cool. Yeah, I've seen that evidence, and I've seen it from, is it Ghost of Hope who leaks all the other stuff? Yep. I've seen some stuff suggesting, BO6 was kind of a gap year and BO7 was the game they wanted to make all along. I'm gonna be a little bit kind of cheeky here. I don't care if it is or not, because the consumers suffer the consequences of this regardless. So right. It's like when we got Cold War, we were like, sorry, let's actually go to BO4. When we got BO4 and it kind of started to peter off, we're like, well, the game didn't work out, but the next time Treyarch's gonna kill it. Then we get Cold War, and we're like, well, they had C-19 and things weren't really working out, but the next game, and then it's Vanguard, and they're like, well, they got pushed on it last minute and they had to rebuild ground base from the ground up. So then the next game, guys, then we get MWZ, and we're like, well, Treyarch's they've had 4 years for Black Ops 6, they're helping out with this, and then they're passing it off to Infinity Ward and Sledgehammer for the remainder of the year. But Black Ops 6, 4 years of development, it's going to be the best Call of Duty of all time, and now here we are again. Oh, it could have been a gap year. They were actually focusing on Black Ops 7 the whole time. It's going to be a BO2 remake, remaster, kind of reimagining thing. This is the year. 5 years of development, and I'm like, I don't care anymore. I don't care.
That's interesting too, because it's almost like that is, I don't even know. You would love to just be a fly on the wall in these backroom discussions and these boardroom meetings where it's like Activision, but just how Activision communicates with all the studios. I think that'd be interesting. But I actually like that perspective because I haven't heard it yet. I think a lot of people either just dislike Black Ops 6 and say that it's bad, which if you have your talking points and your evidence, I at least be willing to hear people. I think they're largely incorrect, but it's also like I've heard a lot of people, I think, which you're making a good point. It's like at this juncture, how many more, if you were to say these were excuses, how many more are there to go before it's like, all right, when are we going to stop talking about it like this? So that's definitely interesting.
I don't think BO6 is bad, though. I want to make sure that I'm clear.
Oh, for
there,
sure. Yeah. No, that was,
yeah.
That wasn't, I'm saying just like other people that are,
sure.
I don't know though. I feel like you're at least, like I said, you're like a balanced individual where it's like, even you said, talking about the Reckoning, which we'll get back into, it's like, it sounds like you didn't have any preconceived notion where a lot of people just, boot up the maps or download the DLCs and they already are going to assume or like manifest the content to be bad or negative. So it doesn't sound like you took that approach at all, which is good and healthy for sure. But here's my thing about the Reckoning. Number one, at least I'm glad we got a unique wonder weapon. I think a lot of people can agree there. Now, if you think it needs buffed, if you think it's not good enough, if you don't like how it gets upgraded, whatever it may be, those are all different talking points. I think the multiple different endings, very interesting and big points, like A++. When we were first hunting for the Easter egg, me and MZC, I literally told him when we were running around the map, I said, if Treyarch has alternate endings for this, I will absolutely be giving them their flowers on the next episode of the podcast, because that's cool. That's unique. You get to choose what you want to do. That's awesome. Like MZC said, I think the hunt in general is very interesting. It's pretty niche from what we've gotten from some of the other maps, which is something I'm a fan of. And then you kind of have your cons that go along with your pros. The story isn't very good. I do think the atmosphere has some interesting decision makings, throughout it. But interestingly enough, I'm just curious to hear about, Afterlife, your favorite boss fight of all time, Ricky T and Eddie, your buddy. That's what I want to hear about, and your trials and tribulations. When something is, on a serious note, when something is like that, does that like get your juices flowing as a zombies player? Or at that point you were just so pissed off, you're like, I just want to beat this and then never do it again?
It's a little bit of a mix. It's a mix of all of that, I suppose. I will say that and MZC can attest to this. I was DMing him on Twitter, asking him for some advice. I totally missed this one augment in my double tap setup, and that screwed up everything. So that was part of the reason why it took me so long, because I had the wrong augments going in there. I don't know if I just wasn't listening or I skipped it on accident when I was watching your guys' videos and whatnot, but I just I totally missed that. So it's partially my fault. That being said, even once I got it dialed in, I still think that it's not a good fight. I think that it has some good aspects to it, but I don't. Let me start with like a Mephistopheles analogy, just to kind of clear up what I'm trying to say. The reason I like the Mephistopheles fight is because it's sequential. You get through his first phase. He does like one or two attacks. You learn how to kind of hide and dodge and understand more which enemies are coming out, which zombie enemies are coming out, and it gets progressively harder over this 10-15 minute period, however long the fight is. Richtofen is just like a dude flying around in a jetpack, beaming you with Wonderwaff shots, and you have to slide like you're some CDL pod champ dude. And I guess it's okay. It's not the worst thing I've ever played in my life, but I don't enjoy the experience even now that I can beat it. I will still maybe one day, not anytime soon, I'll do the round 100 thing, but I think the Sam fight is much better. I think it has actual sequences. There's a progression where she's actively getting more angry. It's a little too easy though. I wish it had more difficulty tuning, but Richtofen's is just very one-dimensional, and here's the real kicker for it for me is the only way you can beat it is to turn yourself invisible. So until somebody way better than me can figure out how to get through that, ZC, as soon as somebody can figure out how to do that, I will try it the other ways. But until then, I don't understand, I don't want to go invisible to beat a boss. I want to learn their patterns. I want to learn their movesets. I want to learn which attacks are coming. I want to learn how to read them. Kind of like not full-on Dark Souls or anything like that, but that was one of the reasons why I liked IW so much, or why I enjoyed some of the stuff in Black Ops 4 with those boss fights, kind of learning how the map works, and how Ancient Evil is a good example where you learn which map is going to fall from the sky first. Just anticipating those kinds of things I think is really exciting, and the Richtofen fight doesn't really do that. It's just turn invisible, spray and pray, run around like a chicken with your head cut off, get your specialist or your field upgrade, and do it again. And I don't find that appealing.
Yeah, I will admit
it is.
Sorry, yeah. You want to go ahead, Jeff?
No, it's just really quick before I throw it over to you. It is interesting because when we first got into that boss fight, I was like, it does feel like PvP. Obviously, I know that it's not, but it's like, all right, when else in COD Zombies boss fights are you head glitching something, trying to do damage to the boss? It was definitely interesting. But MZC, before you go here, I actually think, regardless of how the actual fight, the actual way that the fight progresses, I do like that Treyarch did some things to try to limit the power creep of having everything and being able to just, like, you can't just boot into that map and go to the Ricky T boss fight and just do it unless you do your research, you play around with your augments, you think outside the box. But to your point, Afterlife, which is very interesting, it's like they did all this legwork on the front end where it's like, hey, you know, I've seen like people like Donuts and other people like use smoke grenades. Like I never would have thought that would have been a thing, but it's like at the end of the day, you still need the best field upgrade, which is Ether Shroud. So it's kind of interesting on both ends there. But MZC, Wonder Weapon Quest, boss fights, what do you got for us?
That's what I was gonna say, is that like I like what they did with like the 2 phases for Richtofen, because when we beat him originally, I was like, all right, let's go. We just took him down, we smoked him or whatever, and then he gets out and he's got a Wonder Waff and he turns around and shoots me and I'm dead on the ground. I'm like, whoa, what just happened? I was like, so it was like one of the times that I've been like very shocked and kind of amazed at what's going on inside the game this year, whereas like everything else has been a little bit predictable, especially with all of like the leaks, all of the blog posts where they tease the Guardian being the boss. So like what's coming, right? That was the first time I think all year I was like, oh wait, what? I got confused.
That's
but
fair.
no, but like you're right. Like it's almost like they made it so that you have to have a specific loadout. I mean, I'm sure like if we went back at like Frenzied Guard, maybe it makes you invincible for a little bit where you can just tank his damage. I doubt it, but something like that where like maybe there's some other augments that could be good too. But it seems like right now you're kind of pigeonholed to basically, hey, you want Ether Shroud so that when he's in the Wonderloft phase, you can actually make it fair where you can just shoot his jetpack and do a bunch of damage to him. You want a GPR because, or some sort of an assault rifle where you can run around. It's going to do high damage with a high fire rate. You have to basically craft your entire game around, I'm going to do the Richtofen boss fight at some point during this game. It's not like you could just boot up and really experiment. I tried to use the skull splitter attachment for the 9mm pistol the other day. It was in the battle pass and it was terrible. Like the whole fight was miserable. I got like into the second phase of Richtofen and eventually it was just like I could sit here and do minuscule amount of damage for the next 45 minutes to take this guy down if I really wanted to, but like at this point it's not even worth it. So yeah, there is like the give it to where I'm like, oh, I'm amazed. Like it's so awesome that there's 2 different boss fights and there's alternate endings that you can pick between. And I didn't see the phase 2 from Richtofen coming, but I do understand the frustration of like, if you're not specifically running one loadout for the most part, unless somebody comes along and finds some other thing where it's like, oh, the TR2 is just gonna absolutely shred them in both phases or does a ton of damage, or they release that new pistol coming out mid-season and it's like broken against them, or season 6 something else comes out. But yeah, I like the challenge. I think it's really fun. It took me a couple of tries to beat on round 100 and I was really struggling with it, but then once you like know what you're doing, you can get through it relatively easy. But you definitely do need to get online and do some research before even attempting that, 'cause if you just went off a normal game and you're like shooting the Wonder Weapon at him, you're gonna get absolutely fried.
Yeah, I mean,
it's almost interesting how they did like these boss fights in this game too. Like I feel like Liberty and Terminus, we were trying to find ways as a community to make them more difficult, whether it be using the power drill or whatever it may be. And now it's kind of like, all right, in the Tomb, you basically need a shotgun to be able to, if you want to do that, like to be the most efficient that you can be in that boss fight. And now Ricky T kind of feels like the same way, where it's like you need this specific stuff, you need an AR, you need Ether Shroud. So it's definitely interesting. But what were you going to say, Afterlife?
Yeah, I even want to kind of argue against myself a little bit. Like even in a boss fight like Mephistopheles or whatever, there's still like a meta loadout. I mean, I think it's like the Kendalls and the Venom X and even a couple Fate and Fortune cards.
Right.
But I still think the difference between something like that, or actually, I'm glad you brought up the Tombs boss fight. Yeah, there's going to be some metas, but I think what I'm kind of noticing from hearing some examples and what we've been talking about, I just prefer boss fights that have some sort of like structure to them, that build on top of like each sequence builds on top of itself. In the Tombs boss fight, you have 1 laser, then 2, then 4, and then all the bosses come at you and they're really aggressive and they continue to spawn in, and you go from a regular zombie to a doppelgast to a mimic to a amalgam, and then you have to handle all of them simultaneously while it goes to the top and does a potential like wipeout kill. I prefer that type of interaction as opposed to just I like you said, like a PvP type head glitching thing. It's I'm not going to sit here and call it lazy or anything. I think Treyarch did really good job at trying to give us something special. I think they went above and beyond, giving us Richtofen, Sam, and then around 100 variants of each of them. That's really cool. And they did a really great job with 2 Wonder Weapon quests and everything like that. I think that's exceptional. The problem is, well, actually, one more positive. I think they did a really good job of also tying it to the narrative itself, but the narrative is just so bad, so it doesn't feel as impactful. Like, I think it's great that the Wonder Weapon quest is tied to the Forsaken, but I don't care about the Forsaken. So like, when I killed him, I was like, okay, this is cool, but okay, right? And I go back and forth between this, like, wow, you guys did something really special trying to have this Ludo narrative connection, but the impact just doesn't hit for me. Whereas when I'm building the stabs and Sam is in your ear going, oh, you have the pieces, my father could never do it, you're like, hell yeah, bro, I'm building the keys, dude. But inside of the Reckoning, I'm just like, I don't care about the Forsaken at all. So I don't know, maybe I'm just biased in that way, and that's fair to say, but the Dark Ether story hasn't really pulled me in this year in the same way it did in Cold War, for example, or in the same way that Ether or Chaos did previously.
Do you think this map would have been better if they had, obviously the narrative is one thing, but like, if they had started where you choose which quest you want to complete when you upgrade the Wonder Weapon? Like, let's say they required you to actually have an upgrade for the Wonder Weapon in order to progress. Do you think it would have been better if you sided with Panos and you killed Blanchard, if that's where you were dead set on, now you're locked into helping Sam? Or if you had saved Blanchard and you killed Panos, that's where the quest would have split to go, now, okay, you're gonna help Richtofen and you're gonna end up with a Sam boss fight, rather than just at the very end, you just vote for a pick.
I think that could have potentially been cooler if the Wonder Weapons had consequences in the boss fight as well. So the way they function gives you a benefit. So you actually, it's a risk reward type thing. I think Black Ops 6 struggles with risk reward. It's very it's very safe in a lot of its execution of things. And so as long as there was something like that, I would have been totally cool with it.
Especially in Shattered Veil too, when they and I know it's a little bit of a not really consequential thing, but like, even with Richtofen being in the Shattered Veil boss fight, even though it's, like I said, the help is very minimal, like they toyed around with that, and then I feel like they had an option to go back to that in Reckoning, and they just didn't, and then they were like, oh, all right, like Blanchard and Panos are they're just going to make little cameos, basically, and then, not really have any consequence to the story or anything like that. It could have been interesting, but yeah, that's really where I want to transition to next. Like, the Black Ops 6 storyline, did it do anything for anybody this year? I'm curious because, like, it sounds like Afterlife, that's like top of the tier list for you. Like, gameplay, narrative, and storytelling, like that's up there for you. MZC is like a little bit on the other side of the coin, I think, where it's like, hey, just quality content and, putting out good boss fights and challenging stuff and, making sure there's a healthy amount of things to do. And maybe storyline comes secondarily for MZC. I guess we'll have a discussion about it right now, but Afterlife, throwing it over to you, just the general story of Black Ops 6. Before you go, I will agree with you. I do think I was a little bit more engaged with the Cold War story, which is kind of something I didn't think I would be saying after this game cycle was over with, but I'm just curious how you feel in general about the title.
Yeah, I just think it was just kind of bland, and I think they tried to do too much. There is this, I've made this joke a couple times, but there's this part in Reckoning where you're going up the elevator, right before you fight either of the bosses, and I promise this is answering part of the question. You're going up to fight, and you see those laser beams shoot the Sentinel artifact. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And you have the Gorg effects in your hand. You have the Origins pillars next to you, and then you have the Chaos Sentinel artifact in the center. And I'm like, there's too much happening here. There's too much.
Yeah.
We have the Dark Ether, Chaos, and then the regular Ether storyline all in one room. And it's not that any of these storylines are bad on their own, but they're not great when they're with each other. It having the Sentinel artifact inside of BO6 kind of, destroys is a heavy word, but I'm just going to use it because I can't think of anything better. It kind of destroys some of the lore within the Chaos storyline. Stanley was explaining the stuff with Dark Ether the other day and how we're pulling Primus or whatever word they are called now out of the Dark Ether, or how we're interacting with them and how it's screwing up stuff from Cold War. It's a mess, but not a good mess. It feels like it's tripping over itself, whereas like the Ether story of old was like a kind of tangled mess, but the writers did such a good job of trying to make everything distinct and figure out how to make it all make sense at the same time. This just feels a little bit weak. And one of the things that I liked about previous storylines was how there was multiple layers to things, whereas in Black Ops 6 they're just like, okay, Panos is talking to somebody in the Dark Ether, but they don't ever tell you what it is. They want us to like believe Richtofen is some great mastermind, but then the whole time he's just like, pick me because I'm a real boy, and you're like, what? So it's just they just don't ever really go deep. And I want to just say that gameplay does matter to me for sure, but I like it when there's a connection between the narrative that they've built and the gameplay inside of the map itself. So even though I'm not like the biggest Mob of the Dead fan in comparison to Blood, I'll just use it as an example. When you're playing that map and you're feeding the dogs and you get the Hell's Retriever, it feels like you're going on this epic journey of peeling back the onion of Mob of the Dead to unveil its secrets. And they're doing that in Black Ops 6, but that story just isn't there to support the onion that you need to peel back. So it's not that I think the gameplay is bad. It's not that I think the Ludo narrative connection is bad. It's just the narrative is a weak part of it, so it kind of makes everything else feel sort of weak. The storyline started off interesting, but then the Citadel and the Tomb just kind of really threw me off, and I was like, none of this matters. Shattered Veil really brought me back in, and then Reckoning kind of was just another weak chapter, but maybe this is going to sound weird coming from me, but I don't hate that Primus is back. I just don't really know what Treyarch's going to do with them. So I'll pass it to whoever wants to go next.
Do you think that, real quick before MZC, do you think this game gets a different reception if Primus being back wasn't leaked so early?
That's a great question, man. That's one of those you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube kind of things. I didn't believe it. I just figured that was a lie, or like a fake leak or whatever. So I did not believe it was going to happen. Also, I was actually surprised that they went through with it, because I just figured Craig's probably not going to be writing at Treyarch for much longer. I don't really know what his involvement is in the capacity that he's in now, but I just didn't think that they would do that, because in Cold War there's a scene in the opening D Machine like trailer thing where Craig says canon is canon, but don't be surprised if some things don't want to stay dead, and then there's like a zombie roar, and you're just kind of thinking about like little pieces of the ether popping into this universe. Fair enough, but when he says that, you really think that they mean it, and so it's just, I don't really understand why they're back. I don't understand how they're back, but Weaver and the gang are not interesting, so it's better than that. I don't know how the community would have reacted. I think we probably would have seen a similar thing, because the zombies community has always been super visceral. They like to get really angry about stuff or really passionate about stuff, but right now we're at such a split. I think it would have just been just as split as it is now if I'm being honest.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I totally agree with your point of like, I mean, I don't hate that they're back either. Like, I don't know how you feel about this. I don't think we ever talked about it, but like, I didn't really like the Togder Toten ending. Like, I just felt like it was rushed. It felt like and like rumors are rumors. I don't know what 100% is like the truth. There's sort of Reddit leaks talking about how there's supposed to be a season 2 and whatever. Like Alpha Omega and Tog felt like they were supposed to be pit stops along the way for something like bigger. And like, I'm not saying it was gonna be, this is the Great War map where you fight, like Origins reskin with Apothicons and all that good stuff. But I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of the way they went out. I thought that they deserved a little bit better of like at least of an in-game ending. And I know you can explain it like, Nikolai had to tell everyone they were going to the Great War in order to get them to go along with plans so that he could poison them in the forest or whatever. But yeah, like I'm kind of excited to see that they're back, because I think at some point maybe they'll go out on top if everything's written okay or well. Like maybe eventually they get back to the house or some way they tie in Monty or whatever. But yeah, the explanation to how they came, like obviously maybe they'll talk about it next game, maybe they won't with how things have been. But you know, like I was expecting at least like, okay, like, you know, 115 was in the Dark Ether and MWZ. You could find it. There was the Easter egg song. So obviously they're like teasing at this. And then when the leaks came out with it, Primus was going to be coming back or whatever they're called, I was like, okay, so like now it's pretty much like I believe it because of what was in the Dark Ether in the last game and the previous renditions and how they're going to tie everything in. But like I was expecting the end cut scene to basically be like, okay, Richtofen gets control of the Sentinel artifact and he goes to bring his family back, but something goes wrong where, like, you know, you see the multiverse restart, which is kind of what happened, but like instead of it being his family, it's Primus comes out and they're like, oh, you should have left us dead or something. Like, you know, you don't know what you just did, something like that, or, you know, something at least. But just having them come around a corner like they were already alive the entire time, basically like, hey, welcome to the party, we've been here in the Dark Ether for X amount of time. Like, dude, it was so like the initial like, oh my god, there they are, finally, like that actually happened, versus like the initial like just feeling that came over me of like, man, like what the fuck, like what was that, like they're there but like how, you know, like, and I'm sure again maybe we'll get some explanation in the next game, at least I would hope, in some way, shape or form, like that something happened or Richtofen at the end of the old storyline had his rabbit out of the hat and that's Mr. P. I don't know, but they keep kicking the can down the road, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna get the payoff here. It's Black Ops 6. We're gonna figure out what all this means, and like maybe Mr. Peaks really is that rabbit out of the hat, but then it never happens, and it's just like they keep stringing you along for almost seemingly like no reason. But yeah, like I don't care that they're back either. It's just how it's been handled to this point. It's like now we're at a point that they've brought Primus back. They can't mess it up anymore. Like, not in like that's already so bad that it's only up from here. It's just like you've dug those characters up out of their graves. Like, you have to make sure that this is at least like serviceable now from a storyline perspective, that like something makes sense, because they tie in the Chaos story. And it's like, I don't really understand how that even is in this universe if they were separate to begin with. Like maybe restarting the multiverse, okay, it like created a big bang across all universes of time, space, whatever you want to like theorize there. Now it's all tied into one, like, okay, whatever, like fine. But then they don't explain anything with the Chaos throughout the storyline, throughout the year, despite having the Sentinel artifact be a huge thing in the outro cutscene for Terminus. Don't explain any of that. Primus comes back. There's no like, oh, this is what caused it, this is what happened here. It was just so like, it was cool to see him back, but it's so anticlimactic that they weren't explained. And I'm hoping that in the future, in this game, we kind of understand like what the deal is there, how they came back. But yeah, just the initial shock of seeing them, it's like, but why? Like, but how? You know? And like I talked to Stanley about this a couple of weeks ago before the map came out, and I was like, you know, I know you already aren't on board with bringing them back, but if they were to come back, like, how would you want to see it happen? Or is there any way you could get excited about it? And he was like, I just want to see it be done right. Like, I want them to come out in some fun way. You know, I want there to be like this awesome, like, explanation for it. And they just didn't do that. And now it's just basically like, they're back, but that's it. And then they leave you on the cliffhanger for what is probably going to be the intro cutscene for Black Ops 7.
I feel like that is this game's legacy, though. Like, when people and members of the community look back on this game, I don't know if I'll be necessarily in this camp, but it's like that cutscene really embodies, I think, how a lot of people are going to feel and reflect on this Zombies title and this rendition of Zombies, where it's like, hey, this is here, but we don't know really why it's here, and it was only here like welcome to the party's crazy. Like, that's like my biggest issue with the map, regardless of them being back, whatever. I think we're all in like an agreement there. Like, it's kind of neutral, neither here nor there. It's cool, it's nostalgic. I'm in for that type of stuff if they do it right. I think we're all on the same, you know, page as far as that goes. But it's like Afterlife was talking about earlier, it's like, you know, with the Hell's Retriever, like that meant something to the map. Like, I don't, even though it's not out yet, spoiler, but it's like the Ether Blade, what is, like, that has like golden armor. I feel like some of like the specific stuff on this game that's cool and map specific and is unique and really gives you an advantage to be able to take it take it and run with the gameplay. It's like, oh, this is just here and there's a couple of steps to get this and there's a random crystal on the wall and you better bring your RCXD through here. And it felt like that ending, like the ending of this map was kind of the same way, where it's like Treyarch put this here. They knew we would like the thought of this, but they really never developed it past there. And I feel like that's kind of just where we're at headed into Black Ops 7 Zombies. And it's like, you haven't shown really the capacity to do a lot of short, medium, and long-term storytelling in one map. And you have to come with this, the first map of this next title, which, what is it, 2 months away? What's the release date for this game? October something?
I think it's November.
I think it's November 14th.
November,
maybe,
November 3rd. So 3 months here, it's like, hey, you have tens of hundreds of questions to answer in the first map of this game. So if you have a plan, if you're going payoff in Black Ops 7, COD 2025 into 2026, more power to you if you could pull it off. It's just like, you've put 10 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound bag, and I just don't know if we're going to be able to pick it up and move it along the timeline as a community. And that's what's making me nervous about this map, moving forward. And interestingly enough, like Shattered Veil maybe contends for like having the best story narrative. It's pretty good. Like, yeah, it's pretty good. Like, it's like, hey, like, you almost feel like Shattered Veil was the conclusion of the game more than Reckoning at some point, just based on the Liberty cutscene and just a lot of other, it's weird. It's like, it's a lot of other factors. It's like, but hey, the Tomb was a survival map. It's like, I feel like they're retconning their own production. Like halfway through this game, they had to retcon their own production. They were like, we were going to do this, this, and this. And they got like 2 seasons in. They're like, we have to change that. That's almost what it feels like to me. They're just like, well, the easiest way to do this is to basically just retcon the whole story that, people have been meticulously following for the last 20 years or however long it's been. So, more power to them if they could get the job done. But it's definitely interesting to talk about.
Yeah.
It's very weird too that like this game takes place over the course of like a week and a half.
A week, yeah.
So
yeah.
like we go from like it
that
being,
gets released though. How did that get out? Like, is that in Intel or something? It must be, right? Because it's like somebody wants you to know that. Why is that like an important feature of this game that it takes place in 7 days?
I don't know. I just remember at the beginning of the game, it was basically like, you already know the end of the game's life cycle. Like, despite any of the maps being whatever it was called, but like we knew like Janus Towers was going to be a thing, the mansion was going to be a thing. So we kind of knew like where the maps were heading, but we didn't know in terms of like the timeline between them. It just seemed like that when you find out Liberty Falls and they tell you that and Terminus are taking place at the same time. But, like, dude, we're so used to it like taking place over, time travel and multiple universes that like I understand trying to cram all this shit into a week and a half is probably somewhat tough from like a narrative perspective, because there's not really like any time to waste. It's basically like, all right, well, we already know the ending is going to be at the towers and it's going to be a confrontation with Sam and Richtofen or whatever, but like we got to go from Terminus Island over to this pit stop to grab whatever the hell at the castle, but then we also have to go grab the artifact, but it has to be done within a short amount of time for it to make narrative sense. That like and again, like this is what I feel like we've been talking about the entire time, is like they just didn't have enough payoff in the maps, whether it's like through the scripted side Easter egg quest to kind of build on the lore of the map or the castle or, the tomb or whatever it might be. It just seems like, even like with the last map, I was hoping like, okay, like we get to Janus Towers and it's actually, he's trying to clone his family or whatever, but there's all these different like artifacts or different things spilling out of the dark ether that they've retrieved. And they kind of do that with the code step where, I mean, it was all stuff Sam pulled out from Firebase, where it's the katana, right, the scarf. So I just was expecting it to be like more heavy on premise if they were going to really bring him back and be like, hey, Project Janus started off as Richtofen trying to bring his family back, but the deeper he went down the rabbit hole, he found all this shit that he had seen in his dreams or that he had remembered or whatever. And, he started to kind of figure out like, hey, all this stuff is things that I've seen before. So here in the tank is some other stuff that we found from the Ether storyline, or more and more has been spilling out. And this is where it's all coming to a head. And that's why Primus has this dimensional breach in the dark ether here at this specific location. They put so much Jeff, I've talked about this very recently and just in general. Like, we went to Harper's Ferry last year, and it's like
that's what I'm saying.
The entire storyline is set in Harper's Ferry for the most part for this entire game, and it seems
50%
like
50% of this game is taking place in West Virginia, which, by the way, is a cool way to do the hey, you know what? And that's like Afterlife. You said this earlier. The kickoff to this game, the lore was like how many zombies maps could you visit? And they were like, hey, this is based on some in real life. Where we're standing at the steps of the church of Liberty Falls, and it's like, wow, everything is kind of, taking a turn from there. But you're right, MZC.
Like with Mob of the Dead, you're like, oh, it's, Alcatraz. And they built in this like whole story where it's like, okay, the warden there was doing demonic rituals or whatever. And it ended up opening up a portal to a gateway dimension and stuff like that. Like the Harper's Ferry lore is like, it's a weapons facility. Basically, they've been building weapons there, whatever it was, since, 1800s. So there's all this historical history. There's a ton of different, historical significance with people in like the U.S. presidency or high-ranking U.S. officials that have either visited there or lived there or vacationed there, and like none of that got solved. Like I remember, we were like down by the lake or the water there, the river, and we were like, oh, this could be like mining facility or ether mining where they're pulling out ether crystals from the water, or maybe there's some sort of like big facility here where they're like mining things inside and it just went nowhere with any of that stuff. So it's like they and that's why I just like in the back of my mind, I'm like, did they really have this as one big experience where like you start off in Liberty Falls and then you make your way to the tower and it's all supposed to be tied in, and then they just had to scrap it last minute or a year before, and they had to split it up into multiple different things to stretch it out over the course of a title. But the last thing I want to hit on here, especially with premise, is like, I'll ask you guys both this question. I haven't seen anybody talking about this, but to me, the first time I saw the very end cutscene, not where like it's where you choose whether the same ending or Richtofen ending, but the actual like cutscene itself looked like it was rendered at the same time as the MWZ cutscenes. Like it seemed like those were in the same like engine or style, whatever it might be. Those seemed like they were the same as like the Jensen cutscene from the end of MWZ. It doesn't look like anything that was in this game at all from a cutscene perspective. I don't know what that means or if that has any significance, but it just seems like that was almost done at a completely different time than anything that they had done in this game.
Even the font was the same as MWZ.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was thinking that same thing. I mean, I'm trying to remember. Well, no, I mean, I guess the Liberty Falls cutscene looked different than what we saw because there was like that filter, like that grainy cinematic filter over it too. That's really what made it look like MWZ. Yeah, I'm not sure, man. It's very confusing. I will say the other thing that I'm really missing from these stories is they're not really dark and gritty, and I know that's kind of like a silly thing to focus on, but I at the end of Reckoning, it's just like Sam coming back or Richtofen getting his family, and it's like sailing off into the sunset. Like the last scene,
it's kind of nice.
Yeah. It's very gentle, and it's fine. We can have stuff being gentle, but I was just thinking about what you were saying, MZC, about maybe something gets screwed up. We help one side, and it brings back Primus instead of saving his family. And what if like it was a reenactment of the giant and Richtofen just like blows other Richtofen's head off? I'd be like, hell yeah, dude. I just want some like darkness, some grittiness, some danger, some risk. And I don't know. It just feels so safe. I think like you were saying, Jeff, like I feel like there's going to be a lot of stuff in BO7 that they have to answer for. And starting off with transit's kind of like, okay. I mean, I'm not even opposed to that. I now it's supposed to be like a transit like with big open areas or whatever Ghost of Hope is saying, but I don't really know which direction they're gonna go. It feels like they're underutilizing stuff, and it makes me wonder maybe they were really stretched thin again for the fourth year in a row. But I just don't know how many times I'm gonna like let that be an excuse, because we're still paying a premium for it. What's curious about all this though is Black Ops 6, despite maybe it being a filler year or not or whatever, all the stuff we've kind of been talking about, I still felt like it was relatively polished. Like the gameplay mechanics felt solid.
For sure.
They felt tight. I don't think I had like a ton of crashes or bugs, some gobblegum bugs that pissed me off towards the end of the year, but most things I think worked pretty well. It was a sound title, but I am curious, like, what do you guys think about the gameplay mechanics overall? Like, having a Cold War mechanics from, well, Cold War to kind of Vanguard to MWZ to Black Ops 6. Do you want to see this stuff again? Like, are you guys excited for Black Ops 7 Season 3 Frostblast DLC drop? Like, is that what you guys are ready for? Or, like, do you want to see something different?
No, at this point, dude, like, I really hope that, and I know that there's going to be a lot at launch. I hope everything carries over and it's locked behind the prestige system, just because I feel like that would eliminate their ability to drip feed us stuff. Like, if they just said, hey, we're resetting again, like, your gobblegums will carry over, but we're starting with 7 perks or 8 perks, like, that just kind of increases the odds that they're like double tap in season 1, and in season 2 we'll get Vulture Aid. Like, I think that they should just carry over what they have now and start bringing new stuff into the game. And maybe they've been saving it for next year. Who fucking, I don't know. No, I feel like nobody has the answer to that right now at this current time. But from like a gameplay perspective, like, I wish they would blend the modern system with the older system a little bit more. I don't think we need to go all the way back to like 2-hit system and 4 perk limit, strictly 4 perk limit, unless you do, you use gobblegums. Like, I think that there should be like a nice hybrid between both of them. And I think that they've made a definite upgrade from what Cold War was, because going back and playing Cold War, it's a hard play. Like, it's not what I remember it at all. Like, it's definitely very bare bones compared to this system. Like, I like the inclusion of gobblegums. I like that they separated the Pack-a-Punch from the Arsenal station and kind of gave it its own little feel there for at least the weapon rarity and the ammo mods. But yeah, like, from an armor perspective, like, if they do keep the armor next year, because let's say it's too little time for them to completely overhaul armor and we can't get a shield until 2028, I'd like to see them have like map specific quests for that armor, and then like based on what level you have, it like changes. Like, so for example, like Citadel, you pick up armor level 1 from doing a quest and it gives you like chainmail, so it's like just a little drip over your character and gives you armor level 1, and then armor level 2 could give you like a knight's helmet too, and then armor level 3 is like full on, your character looks like a knight ready to go, like it's almost a completely different skin. I think that would at least like kind of hold people over until they could kind of get back to an older thing that most people might like, which is the shield. But from, like, I'm torn, dude, because I don't want them to go all the way back. There's definitely things about this modern system that I prefer, but there's also a lot from the older games that I wish that they would bring back, and I don't think a classic mode is going to satisfy that, because you're basically just limiting what's available to you for in the modern system for classic mode. I feel like they have to go basically back to the ground up and say, we're going to build this game with a specific point system and in a perk limit in mind, whether it's 5, whether it's 6, whatever it might be. Like, they're going to have to craft every map around a whole new system, and I feel like it's not going to happen until 2028. But I don't hate new systems, but I also don't like love them to death either. I feel like they just need a better blend.
I think this is the most interesting question from now until Black Ops 7, because there's a lot of factors here, right? Going back to Cold War, I was a fan of the Cold War system. I think just because of, like, relatively speaking, like, obviously I liked how they did Black Ops 1, 2, and 3. I think the Cold War system is a lot better than how they did Black Ops 4. If that's a hot take or not, I'm not sure. And then not that I was a big Black Ops 4 avid player. I was more into, competitive and multiplayer in Black Ops 4, but I didn't play Vanguard, so can't really comment on that, to be honest with you. But I like the Cold War system. The Black Ops 6 game, I've been kind of saying this all title. It's like Black Ops 6 is like the cooler, like 4-year-old big brother of Cold War. Like, hey, like, you'll get there in a couple of years. Like, that's how I've always looked at this game, where it's like, hey, this system is fine. I'm cool with them running with the majority of this system for the next game, and I do think that's where they're going to go for a couple of reasons. One, if grief is something that they want to have long-term stability and, support for, I'm assuming in the Black Ops 7, they had to consider how the system was going to work on Black Ops 7 and Black Ops 6 if it's something they want to maintain. Number 2, I think that the people don't really think of it from the business side and like the overall perspective of, it's like, I understand it's video games and that's what 95% of our audience comes here for, but I always try to give like the corporate business side of the equation, just because like we were talking about before we start Afterlife, like doing like your full-time job or whatever it may be, like like trying to build up your side hustle and stuff like that, whether it's content, whether it's YouTube. Like, I try to transcribe stuff over from like the corporate world. And it's like Microsoft, when they took over, you know, they're one of the largest companies in the world. I think there's a lot of stuff, whether it's Microsoft, Activision, board of directors, you know, head development team of Call of Duty Zombies. I think there's a lot of talk where it's like, hey, some people think this is too hard. We need you to prove that there's a valid player base for this. We know it makes a lot of money with bundles. We know that the gobblegums are going to do fine. The revenue is there. We just want like the replayability, and we want good data and evidence to back this up. That's why you see the system kind of how it is. Yes, it's more toward a casual player. I think everybody could admit to that, whether it be armor, whether it be score streaks, whether it's that war zone feel. And then obviously the directed modes for the Easter egg, they're saying, hey, only 1-2% of your player base completes these Easter eggs. It goes up to 4, 5, 6% when you put the steps right in front of their face. And even some of these steps in the actual maps, I think, is like a slight slap in the face to zombies players. Like, I don't need like icons for you to show me like where to shoot all the crystals in the pack-a-punch room of the anti-gravity particle accelerator, you know, of that, how to get the pack-a-punch on in Reckoning. But I think this is staying moving forward, and I'm with MZC. We've talked about this kind of the last like 30, 60, 90 days, where it's like, could you just have a little bit more creativity and nuance with the atmosphere and the aura of the map for some of the stuff that you already have if you're going to keep it? Like, I don't just need an ammo box sitting there. Like, could you build something into the map that looks like it belongs on the map, that gives me ammo? And like he was saying with the armor, where it's like, all right, I don't need a shield. I don't think a lot of people want shields. Well, a lot of people want shields back, but I don't think the devs want to do that. And me and MZC talk about this off cam and behind the scenes all the time. They haven't come back with a classic zombies mode because I think they sit there in closed door meetings, and I think they're right. And I agree with them if this is taking place, and they go, look, nobody's going to play this. I agree with them. I don't think a lot of people would play and enjoy the classic mode zombies, you know, on a new title. And sure, there'd be pockets of the community. Oh, this is amazing. We're so back. This is, you know, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2 feel, World at War feel, whatever it may be. But I don't think that they could pitch that to the people who they're working for and being like, hey, this is going to be, you know, a heavily played mode. And I think they're right about that. So Black Ops 7 into the future, kind of the, you know, a great discussion here and something that we're going to have to talk about moving forward. But it's like, how can you bring what you've already done, which I think is going to be most of the same moving forward, and create a unique atmosphere where the armor looks like it's part of the map, the crafting table, if you're going to bring all that back, in the armory stand. It's like, hey, how can you build this into the map where it's not side eggs, it's not like that in depth, but still it's like, hey, this is the core elements, but we're going to make sure that it's embedded into the game mode, and it doesn't feel like I'm just running around, you know, in that war zone type feel.
Yeah. No, I mean, I actually agree. I don't know if a lot of people would be stoked to have like BO3 or BO2 like full on mechanic. Did I say BO2 or BO3 like full on mechanics? Maybe some gobblegum stuff, because I think people do like the. I feel like people like to get into the maps quick, and Modern Zombies allows you to get into things relatively quickly. I know there's like a long kind of setup in terms of getting like fully pack-a-punch and whatnot, but like you can get set up at least in the early stages relatively quickly.
Sure.
The other thing is, though, like I said, I agree with the corporate element of it, but I just think Treyarch needs to go a few steps deeper. So just to kind of talk about the armor stuff, since that point keeps coming up, whether it's some sort of physical change or cosmetic change, I'm fine with that, but if they're going to have it on the wall, like a wall buy, okay, fine. But why not let me have some sort of upgrade where it like I do a side Easter egg and it gives me Winter's Wail inside of my armor? Or like, just if they're going to have these simple systems where I just earn some sort of passive currency like salvage or points, and then I go press square at a table or the wall, why can't I go further and upgrade my stuff? That's really what is driving me crazy, because every side Easter egg in BO6, except for, I guess, golden armor, which I don't even care about because it's still armor. I just don't have to hold a button now. They're all pretty much useless. It's like, Oh, a double points thing over here. Oh, I get to wear a Rat King helmet. Oh, I get to put a chicken bucket on my head.
Yep.
I'm like, I don't care about any of this. This is so stupid. The like, I guess it's kind of nice to get a free perk every now and then. Don't stop doing those ones. Those are always helpful. But the difference between getting a free, and I'm repeating myself to anybody who's familiar with my opinions, the free perk in BO4, or excuse me, BO3, well, I guess BO4 too, BO2, 3, 4, whatever, even BO1, those were important because I could only get 4 perks. It's not as important now because I can get 11 perks.
And the fizzes spawning at the same time every
exactly.
time.
So it's not as important. It allows me to get set up faster, but that overpowered nature of the Perkaholic, it gets leveled out relatively quickly around round 30 or 40. So it's just not as exciting when I pop a Perkaholic in BO6 as it was in BO3 because I was pushing past the rules. I was breaking the rules with Gobblegum in BO3, and you're not really in BO6. Like, there are a couple, like Hidden Power, which is nice. But it would, and I guess the salvage drop one, which it increases the salvage rate. But they need more things like that actually play to the strengths of BO6, but allow you to push past the boundaries. And until they do that, I don't think people are going to be happy with zombies because Treyarch has given us a hard ceiling for all of the gameplay mechanics inside of modern zombies, and until they let us push past the ceiling, it's never going to feel like we're overcoming something or breaking the rules. And then in tandem with the storyline and some of the ludonarrative stuff that Jeff, that you were just saying, of like, make it feel like that ammo box belongs in the map, make it be like a dark ether like portal or something inside of Reckoning that activates when the particle accelerator activates, and we can go in it and grab like random guns and ammo or whatever. Like, just do cool shit like that. Like, one of the reasons Dead of the Night is so interesting is because it allows us to create silver bullets, which gives us an ability to go repurchase ammo for our weapons. But we had to earn that. And everything in Black Ops 6 is just there. It's just waiting for you to hit square on it, or hit E or F or whatever button you use on keyboard and mouse. I use E because I'm superior. But for people who are trying to feel that magic of zombies, it's just like, until Treyarch allows us to push past these boundaries, I don't think we're ever gonna have it back, because everybody ends up at the same place every single match. There's no difference between my game, MZC's game, or your game, Jeff. We all end up in the same place every single time.
Dude,
and that's like the theme of this game too. It's like you're right there, like you're in the game, like this is here, but what's the significance? Like, Primus around the corner, welcome to the party. It's like, what do you mean welcome to the party? And like, meanwhile the Terminus crew is still alive. Like, you're so right, Afterlife. That's the theme of this episode. That's the theme of this game.
Dude, I've got 2 things. Thank God you brought up the Rat King helmet and then the chicken bucket. Like, I sit there and it's like, I'm glad that they're doing side quests like that to make the maps more unique, but it's like, go the extra mile, and just like Black Ops 3, let those do things for you. Like, back in Black Ops 3, you get the Margwa helmet and you take less damage with the Margwa Slate. Like, you get an added boost to your character. With Revelations, there were like 6 or 7 different helmets that you could get that would all do different things. The God Mask made you a god. Like, there's no point in doing the Rat King Easter egg aside from just getting a free perk and some extra loot. Like, even with the chicken bucket, there's no point in grabbing that other than just having a little cosmetic over your character. It's like, take the extra step to make it something of value that I'm gonna actually want to do every single game, rather than just every once in a while be like, oh, hey guys, I got this fried chicken bucket on my head just to be funny for a little bit. Like, they need to keep going with the in-depthness and like giving the rewards actual meaning. And the other thing is, like, with the perks, I totally agree with you. My only thing is, I'm a little nervous that if they were to go back to like a 4 perk limit, they've made, honestly, outside of like Melee Macchiato and Death Perception, like, they've made every one of these perks not necessities, but like, I kind of want every single one of the perks in the game when I'm setting up for a high round or whatever. If they were, again, like, I'm so torn on this, because if they were to do that perk limit, but then every map have something like the golden bottles from Origins, where you could find some way to get an extra perk slot and keep adding on to that until you get the max, like, I feel like that would be cool. But then again, it's like, are they just doing that to satisfy the people that want a perk limit, but also like just artificially inflating the amount of time it takes to get all your perks in the map? If they stick with the random perk Easter eggs that they've been doing, then it's like you're basically one and done. If you go down, there's no other way to get those perks back or get over that limit other than using gobblegums. And then you're going to have the group of people and the individuals that are like, well, it's pay to win. I can't get 11 perks unless I spend $5 in the gobblegum shop every time Perkaholic comes in. So it's like, it would totally give the maps more to do, more in depth. And then of course, like the actual like setup itself and the mechanics would make the game a lot harder. There you'd be breaking the rules, but like now I'm torn because it's like I want all the perks, but at the same time like I don't. And if I do, then there's only two ways to do this because the random perks, like what happens if you can only, like let's say for the Reckoning for example, there are 2 side Easter eggs for perks. You get your core Juggernog, Quick Revive, Double Tap, and let's say Stamina Up. But the only 2 random perks you get randomly are Melee Macchiato and Death Perception. Now you've left 4 or 5 of the other core perks that you actually want on the table with no way to get outside of spending money on the game. And like, I'm not against that at all whatsoever. Like, I don't really care about that, but there's going to be a huge majority of people that are like, well, I can't, I don't have the money to spend on gobblegums to do this. And there's, I don't ever earn Perkaholics because the odds are so bad. Now it's just like, we're back to Black Ops 3 where it's like, if I don't pump money into the gambling or what, like buying them, then how do I get past this point? But it's like it's not an impossible situation, but like I'm sitting here trying to think through it and I'm like, I don't even know what side of the fence I'm on with some of that stuff.
Well, I don't think we're ever going to see them go back to 4 or 5 perk limits. I think they need to, the way just the game works, I think they need all the perks. I think the problem is more so, I was using perks as an example, but it's more so breaking the rules. Like, so 4 perk limit, you break the rules, you get all the perks. Now it's like, okay, we have all the perks. How do we break the rules again? And so I think that next step was stop putting all this RPG shit in the menus and put it back in the map. So instead of having every perk have 17 augments, why aren't those side Easter eggs? What if it was like we're doing the Reckoning and it's balanced for perks with their normal kind of abilities, and there's a little side Easter egg we can do that gives Vulture Aid a buff that allows us to earn our specialist faster by creating an extra buff in the cloud, like instead of having that just be an augment. I think augments are one of the biggest penalties for side Easter eggs because they can never take any of those abilities and put them in the game. And then I was thinking, okay, well, how can we have our cake and eat it too? I was like, well, maybe we get multiple augments. So maybe a super Easter egg reward was having all augments active, but some of them are like counterintuitive, so they like counteract each other. So Treyarch needs to stop putting all this stuff in the menus and they need to put it back into the maps, but they've like gone so far down this rabbit hole of making it more RPG focused in the menu instead of in the map like it was before. It's just, I say this all the time, but they just changed all these little things and they turned the dial left instead of right. And when they turn it so many things to turn that dial to the left, it's like, well, now everything is just facing another direction.
It's never going back right either.
I agree. And I don't think it will. And it's fine in some instances. That's why I'm just saying, it's like, okay, if Treyarch is really going to focus on having all these universal mechanics and the crafting table and the this and that, it's like, well, find ways to deepen the connection to the map, whether it's artistically, narratively, or with upgrades. Let us upgrade the shield. Let us upgrade the Casimirs. So let's do all this stuff to make it special for that particular map. I even came up with an idea. Sorry if I'm repeating myself, but I came up with an idea, and it's like, if I can come up with ideas like this, and I'm an idiot who's not a game dev, they can come up with way better stuff. That's how I look at it. But I was just thinking, okay, what if instead of DLC 2 comes out or whatever, and we get a new item for the crafting table, what if that was like a side quest for that map that allowed us to unlock the death machine or whatever, and then we had it in that map? But if we wanted it on Terminus and Liberty Falls and future maps, we had to do another side quest in that map to unlock a slot in the crafting table. I'm like, now you're just giving me more puzzles, and now you're giving me a reason to go back to Terminus so I can add this to my arsenal. But the problem is, I know it's a kind of a meme, but like, Billy Goat 57 or like, Billy No Thumbs or whatever it is not going to like that, because they're going to be like, why can't I use my death machine? I already unlocked it in Shattered Veil. It should be able to be on Terminus. But so it's just in this impossible situation. And to kind of wrap a bow on this point, I think that from World at War through through BO3, there was such an exponential amount of success that when BO4 came around, Activision was just like, here, Blundell, here's all the money, do whatever you want. And then that game sold like less than 20 million copies. Fortnite came out. The campaign failed. Zombies had all these problems at launch, and they were like, okay, we need to go back to the drawing board. That's truly what I think happened. And so now we're seeing all these safe plays, storylines that take no risk, mechanics that are made for everybody, a lack of depth inside of the maps, and it's all just dialed back like 10-15% in every single area. But that aggregate of ease, of simplicity, spans across the entire mode, which the people that are primarily impacted are the people that have been with the franchise the longest. So
I have a question. Would you consider the Black Ops 3, like the Apothecon Sword, the DG2, the Sculpton Sapway, do you consider those as like field upgrades in a sense, like a map specific field upgrade? Because like I agree with your points. Like I think that even if like you have like basic field upgrades, there should definitely be one per map that you can get either only on that map, or once you get it, then you can unlock it and it's in your inventory. Now, something that like is going to make me want to play that map, like Mr. Peaks would have been a sick map specific field upgrade for Reckoning that I'd be like, hey, if I want this, I have to go play Reckoning. Like it will be cool to use on their maps and whatnot. But yeah, like I feel like them adding in field upgrades has, like, to your point, diluted how much they can put into the map for the side Easter eggs, where it's like, well, like you can't do, even if they were to do those things, like in the future, I don't think it'd be hard for them to do. Like, let's say like Transit had a Apothecon Sword field upgrade that you could get, and it was specific to Transit. And the next year they also have, like, I'm just using an example, like a Ragnarok's upgrade in DLC 1 or DLC 2 or whatever that you could use, and those are only on that map. But yeah, dude, it's like they had the field upgrades back in the day. They were just very, very unique to every map, and you could only get them on that map. And that was part of why I would go back and play Gorod instead of Shadows one day, or I'd play Shadows instead of the Giant one day. So yeah, man, I think I just need to get back to that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's all about bridging the gaps between what makes Zombies map special and what allows them to keep the universal mechanics. And it's interesting because I remember when we were playing BO3 and stuff, people would be like, oh, it'd be so cool if we could bring the bows on like Revelations, or have the Apothecon Servant on Gorod. Like, people would kind of fanfic it, And that's like what custom maps was. It allowed us to take these creative ideas and play them, and play whatever wonder weapon on whatever map, because you can kind of break the game. But then you do it and you'd be like, okay, I kind of see why it shouldn't be here. And that's what I feel like is happening with modern Zombies. It's almost like a custom kind of fan fiction type thing, where it's like, no, we want Gersh devices or Casimirs or whatever you want to call them on every single map. And it's like, well, why? I don't get it. What if, because now, and I feel bad for Sulky, isn't it Sulky 18 or Sulky 118 or something? I forget.
Yeah, high round.
Yeah, I feel bad for him. If he's watching, I feel bad for you. I'm sorry, friend. But every high round situation is the same for him. It's sit in the corner, spam Mustang and Sally's, throw Casimirs or whatever, and use kind of the wonder weapon to camp a little bit. And it's like, dude, that's so boring. It's like, what if there was a way to, I don't know, what if Mangler injections were only on Liberty Falls? And that's a whole other tangent I could get into. I thought they were going to make custom field upgrade or custom score streaks for each map. I was so wrong about that. But what if there was just like a different Gersh device type trap thing that we could buy at the crafting table for each map, like making special things? I don't get it. I really don't get it. And so my hope is, I also prefer that they bring these mechanics into BO7 in a way, because my hope is like, okay, we've gotten Frostblast, we've gotten Frenzied Guard, we've gotten Shatter Blast, like we have all our things. They gave them to us again 4 years in a row, or like, well, no, since 2020. So it's been 5 years. We've gotten the same seasons of content. We get it, Treyarch. You guys like to give us Frostblast a lot. okay. So how about instead of giving us new perks and new augments and new field upgrades or whatever, why don't you just make really awesome maps for Black Ops 7? Just focus on the story, focus on the maps, because BO3 didn't give us any new perks aside from Widow's Wine. They didn't bring us really any new mechanics other than some guns and the field upgrade, or the specialist for each map and the wonder weapons and whatnot. And they really were able to dial in a great story, cool cutscenes, cool boss fights, all this unique stuff, amazing art direction and voice acting and everything. Just do that. Just focus on all that stuff. So now, because the gameplay's done, you guys got the gameplay part done. So that's my hope if they're gonna bring it forward. But if they're not, then I would love to see a kind of a redesign, but I'm impartial. I don't know if that's the right word, but I agree with Jeff that I don't think they will fully go back to classic, because I don't think the fans are going to prefer it. Even people who say they want it, I don't think they will, but that's just my 2 cents.
Basically what you're saying is like, we don't need Black Ops 7 Season 3 Ring of Fire. Basically, like that's what I'm getting from that, is like, I hear you. Like, we don't need. It's interesting. Like, it's a balance of content. It's a good conversation all around. I mean, there's a lot to talk about with end of Black Ops 6 and into Black Ops 7. MZC, do you want to kind of talk about BO7 with this first question from the community corner? Kind of tie those two together for our little next talking point here.
Yeah, absolutely. Chromosoma has left us a very in-depth question here to kick off the community corner. This is like our section where we just take a couple questions from people that have left them for us to kind of give us a nice little food for thought, really. He says that which current features would you like to see? Kind of been talking about this, so it's already being wrapped in here. But basically, what kind of features would you like to see Treyarch innovate on in Black Ops 7 Zombies? It could be things from the lore, marketing, atmosphere, gameplay mechanics, in-game or out-of-gameplay progression system, like in the menus. He gives us a few different things that he'd like to see expanded upon and reworked, which are upgradable traps, mastery camos for wonder weapons, experiment with the intro cutscenes and loading screens, similar to how Black Ops 2 had it, where, like, you know, if you were playing solo, it would be an actual like video intro versus co-op, where it would be the like comic book strips. Zombies marketing akin to the Memories trailers from Black Ops 3, happy medium between the Cold War and BO6 intel system, seasonal calling cards and rewards like Black Ops Cold War, zombies themed events. These are just some basic ideas. Afterlife, is there anything in here that you'd like to expand upon, or things that you'd like to see come back that weren't maybe mentioned? There's a lot there.
No, I agree. I actually agree with pretty much everything he's saying. Since I kind of already talked about the gameplay stuff, I'll just kind of quickly go over atmosphere. Yeah, this year was a weird year in terms of atmosphere, because it was like kind of there, but then in some instances it wasn't. Terminus probably has the best atmosphere out of every map. I do like Shattervale quite a bit, but the other maps just stuff felt off. It's hard to put your finger on, but things just felt a little off. I know they said this year they weren't going to do the whole facility thing, but I still feel like almost every map was a facility.
Yep.
In some, except for, I guess, the tomb. Maybe, is that it? I think so.
Even Citadel, even though it was a castle, Citadel, it did still feel kind of. Even though it wasn't, it just felt that. I get that. Yeah, I kind of just felt that way. Yeah, they all had that facility vibe. So I want them to go to crazy places and really bring those places alive. I say this quite frequently, but like, I want to go to Blood of the Dead. I want to be there. I want to spend time there. I love going in the New Industries place and just looking at all the skulls and the blood, and I just love it. I love just walking around and looking at it. And these other maps don't really do that for me. I look everywhere and I see the stupid ass railings, and I'm like, God, I hate those stupid railings that I can mantle over. Not that I hate mantling, but they're the same types of railings on D Machine as they are in Terminus, as they are in some other map. And it's just, there's such this, I don't know. I know it's a nitpicky thing. It's just, I feel like the atmosphere is getting better. I don't know if it's the engine. I don't really know what they're going to do about that, but I hope that they really ratchet up the wackiness and the darkness, because I'm a dark and gritty kind of guy. I'm just like, I'm super deep and introspective and cool and emo. So it just,
it makes me. I'm hoping that they like all those leaks about the Dark Ether space station and the volcano in New York or whatever the hell they were talking about. I hope that stuff's real. I really do, because I want to see them take it to the next level. And if they're going to make us go to another facility, at least make it feel distinct as possible.
It does feel like the anti-grav room in Reckoning is kind of a setup for a Dark Ether space station, interestingly enough. But Chromosome makes some good points here. That's kind of an MZC point. Kind of ripped that from him, but it's fine. It's fine. We'll be all right. He'll let you know about that. But
like they were, because like dude, like the last time we saw any sort of anti-gravity, I think just in general in COD was back in like IW. So it's almost like they haven't done anything like that on the new systems. It seems like maybe they just use this as an excuse to be like, hey, we're gonna develop this so that next year, or at some point when we want to do this like space station type of map, that's there for us. Again, that kind of almost feeds into the whole like, well, was this year just dev experimentation and shit for future titles or next game, whatever. But yeah, it's almost weird that was included in that area, because I feel like it's not really any reason to like be there, but it's okay.
And honestly, just for Black Ops 7, like if I had to look at stuff from Black Ops 6, I know Chromosome asked about like innovation and stuff, but it's like, all right, I think the starting room only side, like LTM, that was cool. Mm-hmm. Like keep like the LTMs in this game serviceable. It felt like, all right, this was a holdover for some stuff, but that's how that's supposed to be. Keep the rewards up. I thought that was interesting. It's kind of bizarre where we're at a point where it's like, you're going to need to innovate on the intro cutscenes and loading screens and stuff like that, and having longer duration and, having more storytelling on the front and the back end of maps, just as kind of a general rule compared to what we've seen in this Black Ops, 6 rendition, of this game. And I'm just like, hey, I think you need, like, this was, if you were asked at dumping this year, and I know we kind of had some, interesting back and forth about that, but it's like, I need a unique wonder weapon for every map next year. I need them to be good. I don't need, release and, hey, I feel like the swords needed buffed at launch. I feel like the Gorg effects needs buffed a little bit. Like maybe that's just me being, a little nitpicky, but I don't know. I think we've put forward a lot of ideas that have answered this question throughout the entirety of the podcast. And it's like, how many years have we been playing this side mode? Like, you can't reinvent the wheel at this point in its life cycle. I think reasonable, rational Zombies fans and critics can get behind that, but make things feel impactful, make the story feel like it's, on the train tracks, and then, go from there. And I think a lot of stuff that they've done correct in Black Ops 6 could have a future, with the franchise and with the title, but I'll just be curious to see what new stuff they do bring to the table for Black Ops 7.
Yeah.
Okay, so
interestingly enough,
go ahead.
MZC.
I was going to
you're good.
Transition
You're good.
to the next question. Is that what you were doing?
Okay. Yeah. So second question in the community corner from @ZachZerbiak8094. He says, question, I know that Reckoning is the last map, but how do you feel about a round-based zombies map taking place in Urzikstan for Black Ops 7 or even Warzone free to play? If not, does anyone know how the crew ends up there in MWZ? Any Urzikstan fans? Are we ready for an Urzikstan round-based map?
No.
Did you guys
right off the top, bro?
Did you guys like MWZ? Just out of curiosity.
I thought it was really good when there was content, but as soon as like you had the schematics or you completed like the unstable rift or whatever, and there was nothing left for the season, that's when I was like, all right, I don't know, I'm kind of over this. But I thought like it actually built pretty positively off of an Outbreak experience. I don't know about the time limit being a thing, but I didn't think it was actually better than I thought it was going to be. And I went in with my expectations like on the floor that it was going to be just like shit.
I thought it was pretty good. I agree pretty much everything with everything you said. I petered out at season 3. I was like, okay, another Dark Ether Rift, same exact loop on repeat, collect 4 items, bring them back into the world, do a little dance, and then open it up, and that was it. If they would have evolved it and had more world bosses and stuff, I thought it would have been sick. So I don't want a round-based map on Urzikstan necessarily. I mean, I don't really even think it makes a ton of sense. But I mean, we don't really know how our characters got there. We just know that they're dead, and I kind of wish they were dead now. I'll be honest with you guys, but we don't know. We will. I'm assuming that's what BO7 will start to tell us is how they ended up there and why they died. Because that, if I'm correct, just to make sure I understand, at the end of Reckoning, the Dark Ether crew or whatever we want to call them, they got teleported to the Dark Ether. So that means they have to leave the Dark Ether to go to Urzikstan. Yeah, I mean that makes sense, right?
Technically, yeah. It's like they're just in the lobby section of the towers, just in the Dark Ether, is what it looked like to me where they ended up. My thing, do you think that like they're retconning that ending, or like, because here's my like crack pipe. I mean, the story, like, I don't think anybody has any idea where the story is going at this point, but I feel like it doesn't matter. Neither of the endings are canon. The only thing that matters is that crew, our Terminus crew, ended up in the Dark Ether and is meeting up with Primus. And I feel like the MWZ stuff is going to end up being retconned in a way, because Jensen goes back in time to Liberty Falls because our crew's still there. Primus is now there. It seems like it's almost like, okay, it doesn't matter if you helped out Rick Toffin or Sam. Now it's just the multiverse has been reset by the Sentinel artifact being activated. It kind of looks like that's what's being displayed. Either way, whoever you helped at the end of that Easter egg, and now there's multiple timelines again where there's multiple outcomes for many different things. Do you think they're just going to say, it doesn't matter what happened in MWZ, it doesn't matter what happened at the end of this game, it's just now all it is the present time being for every single map next year?
It could be. That's actually a fair point. Like maybe MWZ is a fracture of another thing, but well, no, because Jensen entered the Dark Ether, so she could be with us. Yeah, I mean, it could be. Yeah, you're right. It's just what's confusing about it, I guess, is that she entered the Dark Ether, and then we see like the Liberty Falls photo, so it means she's like was probably in the same world as us at one point. I don't know. I don't know. I would like to know, but I don't know.
It doesn't make any sense because Strauss is dead in the cutscene, but Maya's not there. So it's like, what is going on? Like,
that's a good point.
How does this end up happening too? Like, how does any of this make any sort of sense? And I could just see where they go. Maybe not with like the lazy cop out, but the whole, it doesn't, it was a different universe, or it's a fractured timeline of what happened. Like, her going back in time fractures the timeline. That's what really saves this crew from that death. And now the whole multiverse, I don't know. I'm just giving my rant, like trying to make any sort of sense of what's going on, because I feel like there at least has to be a little bit of sense here at anywhere, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm honestly with you. I mean, the fact that you brought up the multiverse idea, that is interesting. It does kind of make sense, and it could be something that we would see. The reason I'm even hesitant to glom onto it is because I just don't even know if the current writing team like understands why that was ever interesting or why they even had to do it. From my understanding, Jason and Craig kind of went that direction because they thought it made the most sense from how Jimmy and the story kind of started. Like it wasn't like they wanted to do that. They had a couple options and they were like, this is the best option. So I hope they're not just bringing it up to be like, well, they liked multiverses before. It was like, right. No, they needed to kind of do it to justify the crazy shit that they were doing. But I don't know. I'm open I'm open because all I want is for zombies to be great. So I have hope for Black Ops 7, but I will just be quite honest. Like, I'm not holding my breath.
Right.
And it's interesting too and like I said, it's only a couple months away, but like there's already a pretty good discussion in the online universe where it's like, hey, whatever we're calling it, Transit Reimagined is like pretty big map. You could mix and match like the crews like that already being pushed and like touted as a major game design is like, okay, you didn't really you brought Primus back and you didn't really conclude whatever we're calling this crew, the Terminus crew, whatever people want to call them. So I don't know. You guys are right. I think we've talked about it the whole show. It's like they have a lot to go through on, and MWZ was kind of could have just been something to have something out there. I think MWZ was for taking a stab at something. It was interesting and definitely enjoyable. So I give them points for MWZ. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but it was interesting.
Right quick. I sent you guys this in the group DM.
Yep.
It's like the side by side screenshot of the portal that happens. This happens in both of the cutscenes. It only looks like this in the Richthofen one because of the angle that they use. But to me, that looks like they literally are just explaining this as, okay, the Sentinel artifact ends up opening up the multiverse again, and that's explaining how Primus is back. Is that's just what this either side here, even messing with the Sentinel artifact with the Origins rocks or the Sentinel artifact or whatever else is there, like that's how they're explaining it. I don't know if that's just a design choice. I don't know if that's just how they're explaining this, but to me, that's what it kind of looks like, I guess.
Yeah, I see it. I do see it. I get your theory. I hate that it's a Sentinel artifact. I know it doesn't really matter because it's just like object does thing, but I hate that it's a Sentinel artifact. I wish it would have. I just wish they wouldn't, because they weren't, these stories weren't supposed to be connected, and so
right.
It would have been so much cooler if they, somebody figured out what the summoning key was or something, and they tried to recreate it. I don't know. It's not, or something else, just anything else really, other than
that.
That
wasn't even like the initial. Like that's not even how the Sentinel artifact works, right? Like it was just bringing stuff back from the dead, or what was like the. Right, like there's no way did it even hold the power to do that.
Well, it was the prima materia. The Sentinel artifact was just like a trial thing that we activated in order to complete whatever challenge the gods or in the 9 and all that shit we're doing. I'm not 100% familiar with the lore like I used to be, but it's something you just were completing the trial of that instance. But the prima materia was what could animate things. It was the essence of life, and you could construct it to turn things into zombies or to bring things alive or whatever. So, and the fact that it's like the Zeus or it's the same one as the Voyage of Despair, and because there was multiple Sentinel artifacts, there was one for each map. So it's weird that they chose this one as like the ultimate one. It's just confusing. I don't know. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, and they're never going to explain it, and then we're never going to learn about like what happened to Alistair or Scarlet or anything. So it's just kind of again, I don't like to call the devs lazy because they're anything but lazy, but it is just stupid.
Yeah.
So, I know I'm like blackpilling everybody here. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to, but I'm just this whole zombies year was just so weird. It was just very weird. But let's just. I'm assuming we're wrapping up here in a minute. But let's get on some positives.
Yep.
So we're not just like blackpilling the entire audience with my negative takes.
Fair enough. I mean, well, I'm like. Somehow the older screenshot has more aura than the newer screenshot. We're not gonna.
Let's end on some positives. The old shit was still better, even in the animated cutscene.
The cartoon bullshit that we got that everyone hated is somehow still better than.
Sorry.
No, that was perfect. I couldn't have asked for better.
Here's a good positive for you, because we ask all of our guests this, and this is kind of like our thing when we have guests on, but. Afterlife, what got you into Call of Duty Zombies? Like, where did the inspiration for the YouTube channel come from? Where did you starting up your own podcast? Like, where did all that stem from, and what got you into the game of the world of Call of Duty Zombies?
Interesting. Yeah, so I was one of the lucky ones that finished the campaign with my friends, and we saw the Nazi zombies like text on the screen, and we were like, what is this? And we were hooked. What was funny is like we only knew about Noct for a while, and all of a sudden we were like, wait, you can like buy DLC? We didn't even understand what DLC was at the time. So all of a sudden we had like all these maps, and we were playing Derice, and we got to round 30, and we thought we were awesome. Funnily enough, though, I missed out on BO1 and BO2, and I came back to Call of Duty during Black Ops 3 had launched, but I bought Advanced Warfare and Black Ops 3 on the same day because I didn't know which one was which. And so I started playing Exo Zombies years later, and I was like, oh man, Zombies has changed quite a bit, but it's pretty fun. And then my friend was like, bro, it doesn't feel right. Let's play Black Ops 3. He's like, I think that looks a little bit more exciting. And then we loaded into Shadows, and it was just my mind was just blown. I was so into it. I was like trying to get to Pack-a-Punch. It was taking me so many tries. I didn't understand what the hell was going on, but I was determined to figure it out, because in the way I can't explain this, but the way that I connected to the game, I was like, this is the progression that Zombies was supposed to take. I could just, even though I wasn't there with you guys during BO1 and BO2, I still understood the trajectory. And so I saw, like, the YouTubers making content, and I tried, and I didn't really understand what the hell I was doing for a long time. But the reason I started making like the in-depth like analysis stuff and the way that I do is I was actually influenced by SkillUp. I don't know if you guys know who that channel is, but I really like his review style, and I was like, oh, I could maybe try something like that for Zombies. And so that's kind of the approach I take there, like an Actman, SkillUp kind of style for some of the reviews. As far as the podcast though, I just wanted to talk to other creators. I didn't realize how, I don't know what the right word is here, but I'm just going to use like sheltered, because I don't really know what another word would be to fit. I didn't realize like how sheltered my opinions were about Zombies. Like, I thought everybody loved the main quests. I thought that was like a really big selling point. It was for me, at least. Going from starting weak, building yourself up, going through this epic quest to go through a boss fight, I was like, dude, that is so sick. It actually it completed the circuit of what I thought Call of Duty Zombies was supposed to be. And then you just beat the boss, and then you survive as long as you want, and then you just quit. And so when Black Ops 4 came out, I was really confused by the negative reception, because I was like, isn't this what we want? Well, I mean, I guess they did end the game after you beat the quest, but I digress. I thought we all wanted this epic main quest, this journey, this story, like an escape room, like a mini campaign inside of a map. But the more I talked to people, and the more I I made my tier list, and the more I kind of expand in this, like my perspective and learning from people, a lot of people don't really care about that. They like just kind of loading in and killing zombies and doing a couple activities here and there, but they hate the idea. The word they use commonly is like homework, or it's tedious, or like, I don't want to do Morse code puzzles. And I'm like, well, there's other ways you can, have cool puzzles. So I think my bias like towards BO4 and BO3 in terms of the main quest is maybe more of a minority in the community, and it going through and talking to other Zombies YouTubers has kind of helped me see that. And while I disagree and think my opinion is obviously right, because it's my opinion, I am still open and want to hear what other people are seeing and thinking, so that I can understand how to better make my reviews and better make content. So I'm not kind of like stuck in this limited frame of reference.
Fair enough. Very well thought out. MZC, anything else you have for us here before we kind of break it down, wrap it up? Anything else for Afterlife for this pod?
I'm actually kind of the same way with you, dude. Like, when I first started playing Zombies, it was all about like just how long can I go? How far can I survive? Like, I remember getting the rush of like getting to a higher round than my friends, because like we all started around the same time, but I wasn't as good as them. So like once I got the game for myself, I used to just like go to my buddy's house and we play. But like once I started building myself up, like that's what Zombies was for me. And it wasn't until, I mean, like I did all the main quests when they came out back in the day, but it wasn't really until like a couple of years ago that I started going back and like really like learning them to the point where like I didn't need to watch guides for anything, and I could just rip them out myself and hop on. But like then just right when you said that, now it's like, dude, maybe that's why I don't care as much that the story was bad for this map as opposed to like the gameplay, because like now that I'm thinking about it, like I really got hooked on the gameplay aspect of things. So no, it's interesting that you said that. But no, dude, is there anybody that like who's your favorite person that you've talked to in the community? I know it's hard to pick, it's like asking a parent, but like who's the coolest person that you're like, man, I never thought I'd actually get to like interview this person, in a sense, if you have one?
That's an interesting question. I it's hard for me to put a just pick somebody out of the lineup. I mean, I want to answer the question in a different way, and maybe this isn't as satisfying, but the one thing I really like about the podcast is that I've been able to interview really, really big channels, and then channels that are I don't want to call them small because I don't want it to seem like rude, but just building their following. And the reception from the community has been really positive. It's been like, I don't know. I mean, obviously if I have somebody like Tim Hansen or Rizzo is going to get more views, I know, because it's just like a household name in our community. But I would say the views have been consistent over the episodes because of the topics that everybody brings to the table. And that's been really encouraging to see. Like, there's hunger for a good conversation about Call of Duty Zombies, and that's always exciting to engage with. But I don't know. Everybody has been super kind. Like, it's hard to pick. I mean, interviewing like Pizza was pretty awesome, because like getting to, he's I've been watching his guides forever. I mean, same with it's hard to pick. Like Tim, Dalek, like all of them, they've been so kind to me and so generous. It's like kind of meeting people that have inspired you to build the stuff you're building. It was very encouraging that they even gave me the time of day. So very grateful for that. But I don't even want to like necessarily pick them, because I don't want to dismiss the smaller creators that are kind of on the grind and on the rise with me. So I'm going to refrain from picking and just say that it's been an honor to interview everybody.
That's pretty fair. I think that's more than satisfactory. That was a hard question, because I know you don't want to be like, oh, well, I really like this guy and I hated this interview, because like you not that there's anybody that is like that. But yeah, no, I got you.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of young channels in the Call of Duty Zombies space, and like, yeah, there's people who've been doing it a long time. I feel like that's any niche, but it's like, I feel like this the community's in like a good spot from like a creator standpoint, where I feel like there's a good diversity of, you go to this corner, this group of people for this. If you want to see high rounds, there's people for that. If you want to see speed running, if you want to listen to some podcasts, there's a couple of people for that. And then you have your general guides and your lore people and stuff like that. So I think that's the thing too, where it's like, hey, like, we all want to see zombies succeed. Like, the faithful actors, I think, within the community want to see zombies succeed. And when we come on here, and it probably did sound like a little bit of negativity this episode, especially from what me and MZC are used to, even though I think that's good for us. But it's like, hey, we just are giving you suggestions that we would actually believe are going to help the game in a positive manner. So I don't think there's anything, wrong with that. And I don't think that that's anything to shy away from. Like, hey, it's a consumer capitalistic enterprise. Like, you're putting out a product and we're spending money on it. So it's going to be a give and take at the end of the day. But Afterlife, thank you very much for being on the show with us. Everybody, make sure you go over there and subscribe to his channels. Just Afterlife, throw that in YouTube, go to the Afterlife podcast, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe. Make sure you say, hey, MZC and Perkaholics Anonymous sent me over. It was a really great episode, Afterlife. Thanks for joining us here. We appreciate it.
It was an honor to be on here. I really appreciate both of your guys' time. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. MZC, anything before we sign it off here?
Nope, dude. Once again, thank you for giving us basically 2 hours of your time. It's always awesome talking to you. I had a great time on your podcast the first time around, and it was just awesome to kind of get a nice little follow up on the opinions here, see how things changed from launch and whatnot, and hopefully we'll get to do this again at some point in the future.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks again for having me.
All right, guys, if you made it here this long, make sure you're hitting the like button on this video. Make sure you subscribe, bell notification on, so you don't miss anything future from MZC. Make sure you're leaving comments down below for the future community corner in the next episode. And who do you want us to talk to next? We've had a lot of special guests so far, each one interesting and intriguing in their own right. We would love to talk to more people in the community. So leave your thoughts down below there, and make sure you're staying hydrated. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.